Good afternoon and good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Colin Mahan, and I'm a program manager at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. For those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit dedicated to enabling entrepreneurs from all over the world to realize their maximum potentials and grow. As you may have seen in the chat, the NASDAQ Center, along with our partner Mentor Cloud, launched a free mentor matching platform for entrepreneurs called Mentor Makers. Create your own advisory board to guide and inspire you with in-the-moment mentorship from topic experts and professionals dedicated to providing exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. Together, we will build the greatest exchange of knowledge and expertise in service of entrepreneurs in business today. Find and become a mentor by using the link in the chat. Again, mentorship matters to all entrepreneurs. Their success dependent on it. Quick housekeeping item, we're going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event and throughout the event in a new almost Ask Me Anything edition. So please submit your questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation. We'll make sure to get to as many as we can. None of what we do could be possible here without all the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, BPM, and NZTE. We are humbled by their contributions. Now, before we get started during these unique times, we're curious on how sentiment is among the entrepreneurs we work with. We'd like to start by taking a poll to let us know how you're doing and also what's keeping you up at night. So take a moment to fill this out. Good thing that we have a great sales expert today, because hopefully sales is on the top of the what's keeping you up at night list. So take a moment, fill out that poll for us if you'd like. We use this information to track sentiment across the board and across the globe of our entrepreneurs since the pandemic. Second one helps us understand the topics that we should be covering in these webinars. So thank you guys for voting. I'm going to end that poll and share the results with you all. So optimism's at the top of the key, which is amazing. And sales and scale, both things that I believe we're going to cover, are keeping you guys up at night. So hopefully we can alleviate some of those challenges and help you sleep a little bit better. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest today. Paul D'Souza has spent his career helping companies increase revenue. His approach is strategic and mapped to the business goals of leadership teams. Paul's been turning business around and helping design sales strategies since 2003. Before then, Paul was an account executive selling multi-million-dollar enterprise software and IT service projects in the Fortune 500 marketplace. So he knows a decent amount about sales, to say the least. Paul, welcome.
Hi there. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me, Colin?
Yep, can hear you great. Happy to have
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. What a great intro. Appreciate it.
Amazing.
Um,
Well, let's dive right in if you're okay with it. So, in our
yeah.
invitation, we alluded to 3 key points that we're going to cover today. So, I'd like to start there. But again, to anybody in the audience who has any sales related questions or how to grow and growth related questions, please drop them in the Q&A. We will be answering them live throughout this presentation. So, Paul, to dive in, how do you design go-to-market strategies in this new market?
Great. Oh my gosh, it's a good question, and something I'm dealing with every day. You know, one thing that was not mentioned in that intro is that I'm hands-on involved with hundreds of startup companies. Last night, I taught a class with the Founder Institute with the group out of Guadalajara, Mexico, and I do the international cohort as well. And we've been doing this for years, so I'm dealing with this question every day. And how the market has changed is significant, right? What's happening now is that your storefront, right, where you've got in the past you would have customers coming into the storefront, you'd have your employees at the store or at the business, at the warehouse, at the distribution center. That facility, that place is not necessarily there anymore. So your salespeople are not in front of the customer, your customer's not in front of you, but still you've got to transact. So the go-to-market strategies have to be anchored around these few key points. One is you've got to be very grounded and very centered in your specific marketplace, right? Or the specific vertical. Like for a startup, I say, hey, give me the first 10 clients that you think you're going to have. What does the profile look like? And oh, by the way, do you have them identified? I don't want to hear about the 600 people in your database that you just acquired. And this is a true story, right? And now for those 10 people, are there, and now look for the second thing is you want to look for synergies, right? So I was saying, I was talking to a client recently and they've got wearable devices, but they've got 138 wearable devices on a new platform selling only wearable devices. I'm like, stop selling 130 devices. Pick one or two and then go to maybe the Heart Association or the Leukemia Society or any group like that where you can get synergies of people, or go to the chambers of commerce where there's synergies of people that might need your product. So you want to be able to be very specific. Less is more is the main idea. And then the third thing I would have people focus on is to just make sure your technology stack can allow you to transact. It's got to allow you to want to be findable, so that people can find you while they're at home and not in your storefront, right? On their phones. And then all the information they need to make a decision is available so they can complete a transaction.
I love that. And with the new world we're all living in, I think that's super helpful.
Yeah, it's the world through this lens, right? The lens of the phone.
Amazing, Paul. So can you talk about how far founders can grow their business in today's marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, as always, sky is the limit, right? I mean, the market is honest, right? It's the level playing field. It's irreverent, right? But it is honest. So if you have an offering that is valuable, right, you're going to tap into this viral nature of things, and your customers are going to pull you along. But you've got to tap into that. So you've got to be smart about what does the customer in today's market require, right? I was talking to a client the other day, and they had it's about translation services for lawyers. It's a great solution because technology can allow you to translate things faster as opposed to just manually. But then that marketplace is may not necessarily be as big as one would like, and the exit strategy may be very different. So I always think about start, but then also think about right in the early stages. Think about once you launch your business, what is the exit? Because as big as you can get, maybe quickly getting to an exit and getting tied into the bigger company's strategy, right? I'm driving M&A work right now for a logistics company. And I'm talking to, they're a $20 million company, and I'm talking to a lady that's had her own small logistics company in Toledo, Ohio, but she wants to participate in our growth to $200 million as opposed to her herself growing to $200 million. She wants to be on the bigger bus. So look for those exit strategies, inflection points as you grow. And that way you can build your business for the sake of growth. Because some people may not. I have a slide in the class I taught last night in my revenue deck that says, do you want to grow your business to create value with an exit, or do you want a lifestyle business? And there's no wrong answer, right? I mean, it's all about self-integrity and authenticity.
Can't agree with you more. And also, I mean, for those of you who are pitching venture capitalists out there, if you don't have an exit strategy, that's something that you should probably put together after they scratch their heads when you don't have one, when you're pitching them.
Right. But by the way, just to go back to that question, and there's a point, very few people know this fact, but Elon Musk did not start Tesla. He was hired as the fourth CEO, right? He did obviously buy the biggest. The two founders, I don't know their names. I just read about this. I've been watching them. They came up with the idea back in 2004 and ran the company out until 2007 or 8 when he came in, and he was the fourth CEO. But they had the vision, and they said, he's done what they could not have done. But he really hasn't changed the blueprint of their initial idea, but they were the wrong people to drive it. Right?
That's amazing.
And founders have something we call founderitis. I'm like, guys, get out of the way, right? Don't be the disease. Don't be the fact that's going to hold this idea back. Because the authenticity of this is that when you create a company with its EIN number, with the tax system, it actually becomes an entity by itself. And you should do whatever you can to keep that entity, that business, the spirit of that business alive and well with this potential to grow. Don't hold it back. And sometimes you got to step to the side. Sometimes you got to take a leadership role, like Steve Jobs had to come back, came back and took over the company again. Sometimes you might have to step away. You got to do what's right for the business. But don't try to carry the burden of having the biggest exit strategy designed in your head and that you don't have to do it. Please, there's enough systems in place to protect your interest, protect your stock, and help you still create a company that can then take off and have other people run it.
I love that. And yes, our good friend Steve Vetter agreed with you where he was saying, he was talking about your last point on how Jobs reduced his products when he came back. So focus is key. What are some of the best practices with regards to marketing today? I mean, we're all on our computers more than we've ever been. What's your advice there?
I have an edge on me, right? I have these Paulisms, and these Paulisms are usually edgy. So one of them is, I think customer engagement in today's world, in today's market, is absolutely overrated as a marketing metric, right? We use customer engagement metrics when we do use tools like in the old days, it was Eloqua, and then it was, Marketo, and then HubSpot, and now there's, ActiveCampaign and everybody else in between. There's hundreds of products, and you keep tracking, you give prospects a score along the way, and you're counting customer engagement. So in today's world, don't get misled by a high customer engagement score. It does not mean that they have a budget. That does not mean that purchasing your product or service is part of the strategic initiatives that their leadership are making. So there's a real pressure on the salespeople, and that's what I do. We didn't mention it, but I wrote a book many years ago called The Market Has Changed Their View, and I'm dancing with the idea of keeping the same title, right? But having a new version for today's world because the rules have changed, right? So I help sales teams put these marketing strategies together, help them restructure the sales process. And when I restructure the sales process, I'm having to train a lot of salespeople. A lot of salespeople don't know how to qualify against timeline and budget. That's the key today. So in your marketing, you've got to know now how do you need marketing to get the eyeballs interested in what you're doing, educate the market about what's possible, because that I hope you're adding value that way. Because if you do a good job at that stage, what happens is the customer opts in, and now you've got to have a salesperson, an inside salesperson, right? Quickly, or you can do it in the marketing phase, start qualifying against what are your timelines. We have three flavors. Which flavor are you looking at as an example, right? Are you buying a Honda? Are you buying, a sedan? Are you buying a big truck, right? You've got to and get smart about that. Just don't say, well, this person has come back to our website 5 times and they're ready to buy. They may just be interested because a lot of people at home, they finish the call, they finish the Zoom call, they're not traveling, they have 2 extra hours, and they might just very easily, because I've noticed that. I get people on the phone call talking to me all the time. It's easy to get customer engagement, but I don't care about that anymore. What I do care about is will they transact? And what's it going to take? How will they transact? Because their budgets might have shrunk. They might have new guidelines. They might have new benchmarks of success or thresholds before they will spend money. You've got to ask those kinds of questions and help the clients. I say there are no sales cycles anymore. And for quite a while, there's only buying cycles, right? This is another policy, right? There are only buying cycles. And does your sales process tap into your customer's buying cycle?
That's great.
That's having grown up in India, right? We play cricket, right? That's the pitch, right? Your sales process is going to morph to your customer's buying cycle, and that's your space of possibility.
Amazing. All right. Well, we've got our first live question from an anonymous attendee. And as we saw in the chat, please ask your direct questions to Paul. He's going to answer as many as he can live today. So talking about how things have changed, now everything has to be done over Zoom. This person seems that they've got a consulting business that they usually conducted in person, but now they're seeing Zoom meetings as free advice. So how do you increase what you were just talking about, the qualification stage?
Oh, yeah. No, not a problem. That's my world, right? I mean, I used to fly all over the country for a day and a half, and I had a daily rate. And, so that's changed, but the billing hasn't changed. What has changed is, what I would get for a daily rate because of the flights and because of this would be much higher now. Because it is on Zoom, it is much less. It's almost 40% less, which is fine, but I can do many, many, many more. So I go through the exact same process. I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing right now. In fact, I just did a proposal to the CEO of a company. I have a service that I use that gets me leads. They're not qualified. It's only with interest. They're not qualified in timelines and budget. Then I get them from LinkedIn to a phone call. Have to get a phone call. I'll only do 1 or 2 email exchanges. If they're not willing to get on a phone call, I'm out, right? Because that demonstrates their interest. And then I qualify again. Is this something you want to do today? Why have you not done it? Right? Do you need my services? How do you think we'll use it? I'll give them case studies. You look at my LinkedIn profile, I got 50, I don't know how many testimonials or recommendations, right? That's what my customers are saying about me. And I'll send a proposal. And that's what I did. I sent the proposal, and these are my bottom numbers. We can go up, we can go down based on what you need. And the response was, let me get my CEO on the call. And I spoke to the CEO who was sitting in Hyderabad. I spoke to him and one of the VPs. And I told them, guys, it's a go, no go after this. No more free calls. And I paid it forward. I gave them a ton of advice. But that was literally something I said. Like, guys, really appreciate the time. This is great. I'm super excited. I'd like to do this with your company. These are the strategies I'd like to follow. Oh, by the way, my mind's going crazy. I think there are 3 specific channels we can follow, which is true. I don't want you to spend any money on marketing. Let me just spend the first 90 days opening doors for you. So I gave them all the free advice as a strategy. But guess what? It's my strategy. And I verbally said there's no, assumptions to be made that really appreciate it. Let me know how you guys want to move forward. It's a simple go, no go conversation.
Yeah, I think getting to know
and
just as important as getting
Yeah, and I've designed an out. I've designed a system called pay what you can, because I truly mean it. Pay me what you can. If you can't pay me my 10,000 a day because we're not there, then you only have $500 because you need a personal coach to help you just stay on the track, then I'll take that because I want to help you succeed. But I'll only take it for companies where I think there's an upside. And I'll only take it if you make a 1-year commitment to me. And I'll only take it if there's a possibility that I can get a piece of the company, because now I'm going to pay it forward, right? So my point is, you can get creative like that. And really, so this brings a really good point. What is needed in the market today is true partnership. So for the consultants out there, don't do anything for free. Limit that, right? It's just about being honest, but then say, yes, I'll partner with you if it's the right fit. And then you climb with them.
That's great advice. All right, we got a question from Facebook Live. So we hear you out there on the other platform. So Paul, when going into a market, and this is a meaty one, so I might break it up into a couple, but when going into a market, what would you consider to be the key indicators of the market needing a service? I think they're talking about user research here.
Yeah, market fit.
They're questioning demand, competition, population. Is it true that people don't know what they want until they see it? Question mark. And then assuming that X market is non-existent, right? You can see it, but need to gauge the market a bit. So how do you gauge whether, I think they're asking about product market fit here. And then, yep. And then there's another one, but we'll start with that.
Yeah, sure. There's two or three questions right there, and I'll try to frame it out, and please have them type in the answers if there's any gaps. So yeah, identifying, and especially for today, identifying whether your product or service is needed in the market. There's some very simple rules you can follow, because I'm looking at companies and ideas in different markets, right? Just in the last 90 days, I've talked to people in Israel, in Casablanca, in Sri Lanka, in India, Canada, a couple of different cities. And very often it has to start in a very local perspective. So the simple question is this: does somebody need your product or service? Or would their lives be better with it? And 9 out of 10, you're going to get, oh, absolutely. It's a great idea. That's how I came about it. I was suffering with this, and then boom, I got this. It's a great idea. It's my new widget. Great. Now, will somebody pay you money for it? Well, I don't know. I haven't tested it out. That's the key, right? Why would anybody give you money for something they can do themselves? This is hermano de hermano. This is human nature. So what is the value you're bringing to the table? So a good idea is a good idea, but what you have to do is take it one step further to figure out, will somebody pay money for it? And there's only one way to do that, is to try to go talk to 100 people. And that's not a fictitious number. I'm not saying talk to a lot of people. I'm saying talk to 100 people.
Yep.
Right. And then you find that, right. I mean, you have to. I mean, there's no magic bullet over here on this, right? And then even those guys will lie to you. And then you got to prototype it and test, because they'll say, yeah, I'll pay you for it, because they might like you. They might want to be friendly with you. They might not want to hurt you. They might, because you might have been introduced to them through a friend, and they want to support you. But then go ask for the money. I did this with a graduate of the Founder Institute in Montreal. She said, in 6 months, we're going to try this product out. We're going to build this database. We're going to build this product. And then we're going to try it out. We have 600 manufacturers. And I said, no, give me one vertical. Which vertical do you know? She said, I know food manufacturing, prepping. I'm like, okay, great. I said, 10 customers. Go talk to them and go deliver what your software is going to do, but do it manually. Right? The company is bridger.co, bridgr.co, and they have a very cool product, which is a platform for manufacturing companies to hire IT consultants, or any consultant that they need, an expert, right? Like the old temp agency, remember Adecco and people like that in the old days? They may be still around, but how do you know a consultant is trustworthy? Right? So they do that vetting out process. But my point is, They did it manually, and they figured out the price points. They figured out how much people would buy. They'd figured out so much information by testing the market, and that's going to be critical.
It's amazing.
Now, there's another question that was hidden in this first half of the question that the person on Facebook had, which was about location. You've got to figure out how much of your service offering or your product is location based. Okay, so you've got to figure out, like, there's a great story. I've been trying to use it, and here's a great case. It was on CNN of all places, where these two people, and I don't know, I think they were brothers and sisters, the two sisters, or I don't have those details now. I believe in Baltimore, got laid off and was sitting around, they had time on their hands, and they wanted to eat crabs. And Baltimore was famous for crabs. And there was no place that was open. So they started a company where they didn't even rent a kitchen. There were all these empty kitchens. So it's called ghost kitchen, ghosting kitchens or ghost kitchens, where they go in and they rent a kitchen just for a day, or just for 20 meals at a time. That's how they started. And then they themselves would deliver, and they just started with their friends and family on Facebook. And now they're rocking it out. But that's a case where there were other people that had a need of wanting to get crabs because Baltimore's famous for it, but all the restaurants are closed. So they took the product or service to them.
I love that.
Right? It's that practical. It's that practical.
Totally. So the third half of the question from Facebook, any advice on KPIs you think are essential for any business?
What about the KPIs?
Which KPIs, I guess. Maybe if they could give us a little bit more.
Yeah, there are.
It depends on department.
Yeah, so from a sales standpoint, right, the KPIs that I'm looking for, I mean, I was just at 12 o'clock, I was, I'm on a board of a company there in the garment industry. And so I was looking for transaction value, right? The average sale. I'm looking for annual value of a customer. How many times are they coming back and buying again? I'm looking for lifetime value of a customer. I'm looking for churn. I'm looking for conversion rates, which marketing channel. We were just on this meeting, we were literally going through an Excel spreadsheet, and we were realizing that the ROI on Facebook advertising sucks at the moment because Facebook and Apple are fighting, right? And Facebook has no idea. I mean, they're not retargeting the way they did before. The data is not available. So guess what? We're actually putting Facebook on hold because the ROI is too bad, and we're going to work with other channels like Pinterest and Instagram and Twitter and things like that for this specific product, because they're really building a tribe. So you want to look at return on investment with the advertising dollars, and you really want to work with people who know the space, who can not just do the work, but give you that feedback loop, right? If you're hiring salespeople, you got to figure out, really stay on top of them. Don't just say, what have you sold? Because that's too late. I had a call with a client last night. I'm like, listen, you hired me as a chief revenue officer as a service, but I'm feeling like a sales guy. Where are the leads coming from? So, well, we've been growing till, for 20 years just with networks. I said, you asked me to help you grow to $20 million. It's not going to happen on just networking. We've got to fill the front of the funnel. We've got to have new ad bats. We've got to have more processes in place, right? So you want to look at that. You want to support salespeople and ask them the tough questions. How many people have we reached out to? How many leads have you got? Are we creating the leads? Are you creating the leads? I had another client where we didn't have enough leads, and we went back and renegotiated because the salesperson said, listen, you guys are not creating enough leads. Give me another 15%. I'll go create the leads myself. So now he's going to get 30% of the deal. That's just fine because the company is suffering. They don't have the wherewithal to invest in a marketing plan and a marketing strategy. So they'll give it away a little extra when the deal is closed. And he's just going to go find allegedly an automated tool that works on top of LinkedIn. So there are a million. And then, by the way, that's why people, talk to experts. Please, when you hire a coach, an expert, go hire somebody with experience. They're worth their money simply because they shorten your cycle. They reduce the number of errors. You stop, getting all these very costly MBAs of life, right? A life experience MBA is very costly. So in today's world, I think time is of the essence. So you want to buy and hire that kind of expertise, people that know how to manage a business by the numbers.
Time is the world's most finite resource, as they say. Bill, Paul, we've got a question that wants to come on live. So we're going to have Isis unmute Philly S, and he's going to ask you his question. So again, everybody who's on this call, this is not a presentation. We are doing an ask me anything. So feel free to ask us. So Isis, whenever you're ready.
You know
Philly
what
S.
we should do, Colin, you know what we should do is we should maybe give away 3 books for people that sign in. If y'all can collect the addresses, I'll sign them and I'll send them copies if they're in the United States. I just thought of that.
All right. Well, perhaps people can send you a LinkedIn, and the top 3 LinkedIns, and we'll give email addresses. Can do that. So Isis, are we able to get Philly on?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me? All right,
Yep.
cool, guys.
Yes.
Oh, thanks for having me. Sorry. So Paul, I think you really hit it on the head when you said break it down manually. So my question is, how would you pitch compliance software? You know, so I'm building an MVP with like a team of like 2 coders and then 2 people that do like the user persona and the user flow for the developers, you know? So how would you pitch that compliance software?
So I've actually done that, right? We were doing a CFR Part 11 in the medical communication space. And the way our software was $1.2 million on average, and the highest was $4.5–5 million based on the size of the company and the number of, we were doing off-label stuff. So initially I would send consultants in to demonstrate their value and do an audit and make an assessment. So there was a human element that I would sell our capabilities. That's exactly what we did with the lady with the company in Montreal. She physically did the work because there's a certain degree of expertness that your software is going to bring to the table that the client does not have. So if they had those people and had the time to do it themselves, they would do it, but they don't.
Right.
And your software is going to shorten the link, the speed, the time, and the capabilities, and do it for them. But the interim step is, and you tell them, you've got to be honest in today's world. We're building the software, but in the meantime, can we come and do an audit? You could hire us, I'll give you a discount. If you give me a letter of intent to buy our software, I can give you a reduced fee or what have you, but let's bring my experts in and let's take care of your problems right now. You'll do 2 things. You'll build a relationship of trust, you'll take care of a problem that matters to your client, and you'll really learn what's important to them, which you can then drop into the software. And your features and benefits may be totally different, and how you position things may be totally different with that kind of real hands-on experience. Does that make sense?
Great perspective. Yeah, that's great perspective. I didn't think about it like that. That makes a lot of sense, especially when you're saying go in there and audit them until the software is being built out, because it's really going to be built for clients like them anyway, like how Amazon and AWS, you know, it's like they learn all these tools, but then they're creating products for their customers, you know?
Right, exactly. I call it the Trojan horse strategy, right? Going from the inside. And then you can, money is money, right? Tell them to give you the money now, pay you for the time, and say, I'll credit 50% of the cost or whatever. You can play those kinds of games with them. So if you pay my full fee now for my consultants, guess what? We'll give you a break and give you a 20% discount on the software. You're not paying twice. Things like that.
Appreciate it, Paul. Thanks, Colin.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Philly, for the live question. All right, Paul, we've got another one. Early stage B2B business. COVID-19 makes it difficult to network. Very true. Cold calling and LinkedIn feels so spammy. How can we continue to make genuine connections in this environment?
There's no short answer to that. I'm doing it right now. I've hired 2 different marketing companies. One company is doing an email blast. And we call it together. We wrote a bunch of emails, 7, 8 of them. I've got another lady that I work with, and she's got an automated tool on LinkedIn. She jumps onto my LinkedIn profile, and every day, she's reaching out, not even using Navigator. And almost every day I get a lead, and it's worked really well. And so she's actually now part of my team. And then I have a lady in the Philippines, my virtual assistant. She uses my LinkedIn Navigator and keeps reaching out to people. With LinkedIn, the way you don't come across as being spammy is you be absolutely honest. And you make sure that your profile, I don't know if my profile is like, noteworthy, but go check it out. But I make sure that I've got content on my LinkedIn profile that's relevant. I've removed a lot of nonsense stuff. It's not just, it is like a resume, but it's not like a resume. And I tell people, I said, please go check out this article. Please go check out this, read this testimonial, read that recommendation, right? So use LinkedIn and your website as a tool that can help them. And when you reach out, that text, that those 300 characters or whatever you have is really critical. Now on LinkedIn, you can actually put a URL. So I keep it crisp. I make it sound like I'm doing them a favor. I've got something of value that they should look at. And I ask them, if this is important, click this link, and I go to a landing page which has more information, right? So use it that way. Now I also do a ton of networking online. This is where I said, it's easy to get people online, on webinars, on Zoom calls, all day long. I'm having a tremendous success. I actually very often, because I do a lot of work, one of my clients is in the logistics space. I'll see a product, right? Because we're helping product companies. By the way, if anybody on this call, if you know anybody that's got a product, a gizmo, a gadget that can be sold, I'm doing tremendous work with investors. There's a gentleman called Mark Portney, markportney.com, and he was part of the Home Shopping Network. He had his own show, All American Makers, I believe. But anyway, so I'm part of his team, right? So if you've got a product that you think you need help with manufacturing, I've been doing assembly in Mexico and stuff for that, and logistics, we can wrap it all up for you. But I've had a 40% success rate going cold, going to Kickstarter and looking at a company that just sold out, maxed out on their or went 3x on their their target or what have you, budget. And I'll go to Facebook and I'll go to their page and ask them a question. Could you introduce me to your, congratulations, yada, yada. Can you introduce me to your director of operations or logistics? Then I'll go try to find the CEO on LinkedIn. I'll say, hey, I just went to your Kickstarter page. Congratulations. I'll put the real number as of that morning. It's the real number. Congratulations on, 1.7, what have you, or 456 orders, right? By the way, if you need help thinking through logistics, here's a link to the company. One of the company I represent, I'm doing M&A work with them. I'm happy to make introductions for you. Dude, that call works 40% of the time. I get something back, right? Things like that. But networking, there you can do online networking. I do meetup groups. I do different groups in the Silicon Valley, peer on peer demand or something like that with Rocky Romero. And reach out to me, guys. I'll introduce you to people. Join as many networking groups as possible, because that's what it takes. The good news is, so you can say that, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work. But the good news is you're not sitting in traffic to go for a networking meeting. You're not, sitting next to strangers drinking coffee at a Starbucks. It's not noisy. You can control your space, and you can do 25 a day as opposed to 2. But there's no shortcut.
Great advice. And also, Clubhouse seems to be the trending networking opportunity recently. And also, Lunch Club is something that's been pretty interesting to meet new people. So if you guys don't check, I'm not plugging them. I'm not affiliated with their businesses at all, but it is a good, interesting way of meeting new people while locked in our homes for most of us. We've got a question from Tinju K. Must have gone to business school, because they're asking, how often should an organization assess its SWOT in order to understand the current business climate?
Well, I have very rarely done a SWOT analysis on markets and opportunities. I would say if you've got the resources and you got people lying around, it's a good thing to do every 90 days. Why not? I've really never done it, because I'm going very hands-on, very tactical. When companies call me when they've got problems, and I have a simple thing. I say, guys, I'll put revenue on the table in 45 days to 90 days, right? and I've done it virtually consistently. It's almost, I don't know, it's the same formula that works, right? I mean, I'll go to a company that's been around for 40 years and they hit a flat line. And I'll just say, literally, guys, because what I'm doing is before the SWOT analysis, right? I'm going in guns blazing and I'm saying, give me the CFO. I'm asking for every transaction on an Excel spreadsheet. I want an extract of every transaction in the last 18 months. And then I'm going to slice and dice that by which customers bought highest transaction value, lifetime value, which product sold the most, right? And I'm going to fine tune the handful of A, B, and C, just the A's and B's and C's, and I'll figure out when was the last time you spoke to them. And then I'll disperse the team, or we'll reach out, we'll connect with people and go back to people we already know. You can make a sale with people you already know. But yes, if you've got the resources, it's always good to have a pulse on the market. I'm don't saying no, but if you can do it, do it. I would not do it less than 90 days. Even that's almost, it takes 90 days to do one effectively by the time you do all the calls. Every year, maybe a little too much if you've got the resources, but look for triggers, I manage by the numbers, right? Because as a consultant, I'm always going in from the outside. So the only way to look at what's going on is to interview, then look at the facts. So if you're looking at the numbers and you look at, revenues drop in a certain area, in a certain customer, in a certain product type, go do an assessment. That's valuable if you have the people. But my best way is, absolutely, go talk to customers. It's very, very, very important.
And I'm sure there's a lot of university students who would be willing to do that for free as a project to save you time. Let's see. What's the key question from Sharon Dow? Thanks for the question, Sharon. Paul, what is the key ingredient in what you bring to bring new sales in those 90 days?
I look at what is, right? So the question is, what do I do? I think the consistency, I've got an approach. I do an audit, I do this, I'm looking for things, but what I'm really looking for is what's working. I'm not focusing too much on what's not working, because if I don't, as a consultant coming in from the outside, I don't add value to the CEO, I'm very sensitive that they need help, right? There was a company in Montana I helped out, and he said, let's just try it. Let's just do a sales training, bring 30 books. And I brought 30 books. It was heavy carrying 30 books in the plane. Then I listened to the CEO and the VP the night before, and we got drunk. And then the next morning I met more people, and I met the sales guys, and I had enough information, and I gave them a training. And what happens was, I went through the book. What I realized was the salespeople were not trained to ask the right questions. They were not trained to ask the tough questions. And two of them had to leave a little early, an hour before my session ended, my training ended, and they used one of my techniques and simply just asked this question. They asked us, the customer who had been on the fence for over 120 days, said, listen, I'm sure there's changes, so-and-so left and stuff like that, but the question is this: what can we help you do today or in the near future now to help you leverage? They were selling a SaaS application. How do you think we should do? How can we bring it into the organization? And she told them the number has to be 20% less than where they were. She said, if you do that, I have the power to sign. I can sign it right now. And oh, by the way, we'll need to get Jimmy involved and somebody else involved. We'll have to do a training, but I can make the decision. No one questioned me. You're just above my threshold. They stopped selling and they just said, how can we help? And they walked in and gave me high fives. And I told the boss, I said, wow, 400% return on investment. Right? So every deal is different, but I really stopped. I have a saying, a practice. I give the entity. Remember I was telling you about the entity of the business? So I remember once I worked with a company called Heartwood Studios, and I called her Mama Heartwood. And I said, I go in with a very clear idea that this business entity, Mama Heartwood, needs help. Like a ER triage. Where's the first place we can help? With another client in Athens, Georgia, I did an assessment that morale of the company was down. I took over as interim CEO, and I didn't fire anybody. I just asked them, tell me, go take a few days and write down what you like about your job and what you don't like your job. what we can change and what would you like to do in the future. And they all came back and told me beautiful things and where the problems were. I didn't have to go to any crazy. They laid out all the problems, everything that frustrated them. I moved a couple of people around. The lady in customer service was frustrated. I made customer service a profit center. But I don't walk around because she had the potential to be in sales. And I taught her how to ask the question, do you want fries with that? And these guys were selling spectrophotometers. They were manufacturing spectrophotometers, right? But in selling into universities and the NIH and places like that. But then she learned to ask questions like, so how are you all using the application? Oh, not so much because, Dr. So-and-so's, he's already left and this and that. Would you like us to come back and maybe send a scientist over to do new training? Oh my gosh, that'll be great. Oh, by the way, we broke this unit, we broke that. Can you send a replay? Those kinds of things. But I would never have used that as a strategy going in if I didn't know where the problems were. So I ask. Hope that helps.
Yep, that's super helpful for me at least. So Susan has another follow-up. Sharon, apologies, has a follow-up question. Lifetime value of a customer. What are the key aspects you look for to assess it? So I believe she's asking, how do you calculate customer lifetime value?
The first number is just the total number of sales, transaction value of that customer since they've been there. And then I look for it. You might make an assessment. If you go further up and say, most of our customers stay with us for 3 years or 2 years or 18 months or whatever that number is. And then you come to a decision to the company and say, a good customer. And that is just, your decision, a good customer, because we seem to be able to produce that, stays with us for 18 months, as an example, right? And then you just start figuring out how much of revenue they've given the company in those 18 months. Now, that's just the starting point, right? That's just the starting point, because then you want to figure out, because all revenue is not equal, right? And that's how I build long-term relationships with my clients, because then I say, okay, how are we maximizing this relationship? Are they buying the right product? Or are they just buying tchotchkes that are not profitable for us? Are they buying our profitable products or services? That's the kind of, then what kind of education, how do we position it? Or are they just, a client that's, and you need some of those clients that are not very profitable, but it's cash flow, right? And it helps the books. That kind of insight comes by really knowing the numbers and slicing and dicing and taking the time and spending, time working on your business and not just in your business.
Yep, and knowing your users' behavior. I mean, I probably will buy
by the way,
hammers in my lifetime.
Right. By the way, two comments on that. One is, one of my 5 S's, another Paulism, is that stop selling, start supplying solutions, right? So I walk in finding out what are the problems that, like you started this, what's keeping you up at night? And everybody's going to be different, right? So that's where I start. But that's a great strategy to build relationships of trust with your customers in today's time. Please understand, today's customers are suffering. They've got all these pressures. If they're in a market that is being hit, they got survival pressures. If it's a market that's growing, they've got growth pressures, but they got pressure. And your starting point, or whenever you're adding value or selling something, start with, hey, how can we help? What's the area, right? And then the other thing is, the second point I want to make is, once you always want to look for the long-term play with your customers, right? You want to get to increasing the lifetime value, increasing the transaction value, and building a deeper relationship of trust with that customer, right? Try to sell once and service forever. And this is the maturity that model that you can bring into your company, and design. This idea of designing an offer is where is the space of magic.
Awesome. And along those same lines, we've got a question that came in around pricing, which we have a ton of pricing experts that have covered this topic, but how do you decide on how much to charge? This is from a consulting lens, but I'd like to go broad and talk about pricing in general. So everything from a sandwich to consulting services. How do you look at pricing?
Yeah, unfortunately I don't have any nifty formulas or theories or books, or I'm not that educated in this space, but I have a lot of real life experience. And it's a I like to start with knowing your customer, right? It's a topic in my book. You got to really start with where the customer's at and figure out how they value your product or service, right? Uh, I see this time and time again. I was recently talking to a lady that is, actually two co-founders in the translation space uh, for what you call it, lawyers. And I said, "How are the lawyers doing translations today?" And she said, through their paralegals." And I said, "Stop. You're trying to sell them a software which they have to pay for something now that they're actually making money on. Because if they're using a paralegal, they're going to bill the customer 10 times more than what they're paying the paralegal. So that task is a profit center. Why would they buy your software, right? So just because you can do it faster and you think cheaper or better, it may not be why they would buy it. So you want to really start all pricing structures with relationships of trust with your customer, and then take it from there. In the COVID situation, to the consultant, right? I'll just going back, I want to take care of you. Literally, I'm getting paid only 40, 50, 60% of what I was getting paid before COVID, because the customer hasn't seen me. One of my best clients today, they haven't seen me, and they thought that would be a problem, and I'm producing so much value. He's like, now wants to hire me full time. But he would start only at 30, 40% of what I was worth. So I said, yeah, I'll pay you, you pay me what you can. And I scaled my time and my effort back to what he was paying. And I, as a consultant, I say, if you're going to pay me that, you don't have the right to my genius, or you don't have a right to me 8 hours a day. You have a right to me 3 hours a day, because you're paying only 30 cents on the dollar, right? As an example. I managed my time. I managed but I made sure I provided value. Customers want to manage risk in a challenging market, and don't fault them for that. Work with them with that. And that's what they're looking for. I literally, when I said, this is what I usually get, he said, there's no way I could start by, if we can start, and he was very preferred, if we can start with this, which was, 40%, 30, 40%. I said, listen, I have it on my website. I'll start with whatever level, whatever you can afford. And he said, fantastic. That is so refreshing. And boom, we just moved on. But since they paid me so much, guess what? I just backed off my hours, and I took on two more other clients. It's a big world, we're all adults here.
So Dale Hitt's got a question. When your product or service does not fit nicely into existing budget categories, how do you address this with customers?
There's it's a good question. This is when you've got to, put on your big boy pants on or girl pants on, and adjust the value, right? You've got to figure out when you're going to lose the deal if you can. I mean, for me, it's easy. It's just amount of time and effort. So a company wants to pay me less, I only work less. If a CEO wants to pay me, $500 a month, that's fine. I'll just coach him or her whenever they have a question, they reach out to me, and I won't do it proactively. But if they give me more money, I'll be more available. That's how I do it in the consulting world. When it comes to IT services or IT products, or especially software and things like that, then you've got, you deal with the features and benefits. At this level, you get that, and then X plus, you get 2X type of features and benefits. But I would caution that any of these changes you make in today's world, call me old-fashioned, learn to have meaningful conversations with your customers. It's got to be a collaborative approach with your customers. And if a customer is going to take advantage of you, you don't need them. This is the time to be very careful. I made notes of some of the things I wanted to say. This is the time for us, to be very careful about who we work with, how we work, how do we spend the quality of our day. And I've literally walked away from a client that was one of my long lasting, since 2004. And in December, we ended it because it was just not working. The market pressures with him couldn't really drove him to a different place of making assessments. Right? In a bad market, the assessments people make are very different to in a good market. the assessment of value changes. It's not just, because you really get into tomato. They're like, oh, no, that's only worth 10 cents. I'm like, dude, you bought an Escalade in 2008. Yeah, because I had equity in my phantom, apartments. But now, right? That was the biggest shift. And I learned that lesson in 2008 and 9. Decision makers are making different assessments of value, and you have to map to theirs because they're buying.
Buy
Right?
cycle, not sell cycle.
Right.
And Dale,
Exactly. And so you have a relationship of trust with them is the only way to get the best deal on that.
Yep. And Dale, just from sage advice from many mentors that we've had on our platform that we've helped help our entrepreneurs is make sure you're talking to the economic buyer. If the user likes it but doesn't have the budget, talk to his boss and tell him how much your time, money, compliance, keeping you out of jail that you're saving, and then maybe they'll open their checkbook, because I don't have a budget to purchase software, but if it makes sense and saves me money, I'm sure that we could dish it out. Even though as a nonprofit, we have very limited budgets, as you all may know. Okay, Sharon, thank you for the question. And we've got 4 minutes left, so we'll try to get to all of these. How do you handle when they say they can afford zero now, offer you shares, but do not price them, and then want to wait to price the convertible note to equity at their next round?
I'll walk away from the deal every day of the week. I used to take those, but it's just all risk. And, if there's some upside that I'm excited about, or if it's fun or they're nice people, I'll take the risk. But personally, I don't. And I just realized that the faster I made that choice to not take those kinds of deals, the more paying customers I got. That's a tough one, but yeah, it's something we face. People will ask, right? Founders and CEOs of startup companies will keep asking all day. That's how they survive. And there's a place, some people will take it, and you can assess 5%, 7% of your customer base of your time to a deal like that. But please don't make it a big regular thing, and really, your go-to-market strategy, and really, really, really get tough on assessing the future value of those people and the companies, because that's all risk. That's worse than going to Vegas.
Sage advice. All right, we've got time for one last question. From Tinju K. Will marketing trends change post COVID-19?
They're always changing. I mean, reading the market is super critical. They're always changing. Why? Because people's, where the eyeballs, like now there's Clubhouse or something house, right? Everything's changing. How people responded to email has changed. So you have to constantly change. You can't predict what's going to happen after COVID. But the trends that I see now is that we're managing risk. Managing risk is super high. It's always been high, an important aspect, but now it's even more. Post-COVID, I don't see it change too much. Post-COVID, I don't see us going back to, flying. I used to be on a plane, 4 days out of 5 days a week, right? I don't see us ever doing that again in the next 20 years. So that changes how and what people will respond to. It will absolutely change post-COVID. It'll be more similar to what we are doing in COVID compared to what we were doing pre-COVID. Right? That's a subtle but significant shift. It'll be similar to what we're doing with COVID, but not so intense. It'll be less like what we were doing pre-COVID.
That I can't agree with more. And I look forward to being able to high five you when I'm out of my house post-COVID as well. Paul, thank you so much on behalf of everyone here on the team and our community who was able to join us today for joining us. Let us know if you like this new format. So Isis dropped the survey into the chat. We really want to add value in real time here. Slides are great and you guys can refer back to them. But at the end of the day, if you came to this live, we want to address your questions live and specifically just for you. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you do, and we get a lot of positive feedback, we'll do another one. So again, thank you so much, Paul, for joining us today, sharing your expertise with us, and of course, for having a good time with me as usual. Up next, we've got a couple of other webinars coming your way. Tomorrow, we've got BYUC Mentor Makers Black History Month celebration. We at the center celebrate Black leaders every day, but tomorrow is a special panel of experts who will talk about their leadership journey, so don't miss out on that one. And then next Tuesday, we've got Sunil Gupta, who is an entrepreneur, an investor, and also a politician who's wrote a book called Backable. So how to become backable and unleash more cash. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you so much, Paul. And we hope to see you guys at the next one. Thanks again.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.